All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to this SharePoint Site Administrator primer. Today we're going to be talking about lists. Last time we talked about how SharePoint sites are made up out of lists and libraries. These next two videos are going to talk about how lists and libraries work and what you can do with them. My name is Andy Hunsucker, and this is I'm with Indiana University IT Training, and let's get started. All right, so SharePoint is built from lists. We talked about that in the last video, and the idea is that each one of these lists is made up out of columns. If you look at a SharePoint list, it will seem very similar to a Excel spreadsheet. Now, that Excel spreadsheet is not as structured as a SharePoint list. In fact, if you sort of had a spectrum between a full database and an Excel spreadsheet as far as data storage goes, SharePoint is not quite halfway down that spectrum. Each column can have a specific type, and that's the big difference. In an Excel spreadsheet, you can just sort of type whatever you want, and the only way anyone would know if this data was structured or not is if you put column headings on each one of those, but you don't have to do that. In SharePoint, you do have to do that. So column types include things like text, the date, the username. We'll talk more about those later on. Now, if you're concerned that you won't be able to create the perfect list, SharePoint does have many common list templates, including things like contacts, which includes columns like the name, the phone number, email address, that sort of thing, along with a simple announcements list that allows you to sort of type a bunch of text in to sort of say, hey, everybody, this new thing is happening. We also have task lists and calendar lists, which should be pretty obvious. Those standard list templates can quickly build a site. And like I said in the first video, all of that can be used to all of that is about customization. All right, you're trying to customize the experience for your users so that it's familiar to what they are already doing. We'll talk about that more here in a little bit, but let's talk now about how you might go about creating some of these standard lists. So let's talk about lists. And first of all, I want to point out one thing real quick. I'm not sure the skill level of people watching this, so I want to make sure people understand how to move around a SharePoint site. So as we're looking at this, these are all links to various locations that we can go. So we have lists and libraries and discussions and that sort of thing. If you need to move up in the list, we talked about how SharePoint is a hierarchy. So if you need to move up the ladder there, the way you do it is with this Browse tab right here. So you might have things like video practice, and that's the root of the site. You can't go any higher than that. Or you might have this little guy right here, which is a way to sort of move up the chain. So right now I'm on video practice and the home page of video practice, and then I could move up a level. So if you're deep down in a SharePoint site, you can always click this little guy right here to move back up the chain. So today I want to talk about lists and how those work with us. So I want to go ahead first of all and click the calendar list here. And this is a very common list type, and we talked about this. You know, you can put your cursor over any one of these icons, any one of these calendar dates, and click around. This doesn't really look like a list, though, but when you think about it, a calendar is just a series of dates and times and locations that you use to sort of keep an organized list. And we display it in this calendar format because that's easy for us to understand. So I'm going to just click any day here. Let's click Halloween. And I will select the day, the information here. So we'll have Halloween, and it'll be the start time. Let's make it an all-day event. So there's an all-day event checkbox down here. So no times needed, and it's time to dress up. Whoops, exclamation point. You can have sort of categories here. So look, there's a holiday category, and then I can just save it. And it'll be added right there. Now we'll talk a little bit later on about why we're viewing this in this format and not in a list format. But let's see what things look like in a list format. I'm going to go ahead and click the tasks list here. And you can see this is what we're looking at. This is what I was talking about earlier with the columns. So if I add a new item here, then I just have a new task, and maybe I'm creating a SharePoint video. The priority is very high. This is super important, guys. It's in progress. It's I would say we're about 50% complete from where we're at right now. It's assigned to me There we go. And it's due right now. I'll finish it today. Save it right there, and you can see all that appears as, what we would expect to find in a basic list format, which is very helpful. So I'm going to go into the book right now, and the book is Building Business Solutions with SharePoint. And you should get a copy of this book for yourself. It's on Books 24/7, as I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to be looking at page, let's see here. I'm going to be looking at page 45. There's other information in here that you'll definitely want to get into, but I'm going to just start from page 45. You'll probably, if you really want to get into SharePoint, you really want to go through pretty much all of this book, but page 45 is a good place to start for right now. We're going to create a new list, which is definitely a skill that a SharePoint administrator will need. So I'm going to go ahead and click the Site Actions button here, and I'm going to scroll down to More Options. Open that up, and I've got these filters here. I'm just going to filter it by list, and this is the exercise on page 45 called Create a New List. And it's directing me to create a project task list. So I'll click the project task list, and we'll call this work plan. And if I select the More Options button here, you can see I have some options here. I could add a description. I could also make sure it's displayed in the quick launch. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to click Create. It'll take a couple seconds, and it will create this new page. Now this is yet another view of a list, and we'll get into views a little bit later. They are extremely powerful, and it's going to be great, but we've got about 3 videos to go before we get to views. But I can just sort of add in some things here. So this is a project task list. So let's see here. We'll call the first one here Project Kickoff Meeting. Now, your book is going to tell you to put dates in that are from like 2 years ago. Don't do that. Just put in dates for, now-ish. So we'll say that's completed. And we'll leave that alone right there. I'm going to assign this one to myself. The person that I'm logged in as right now. I can add a couple others here. All right, so you can see all of that is going there, and you can see some of the different stuff happening here. And I can add predecessors as well, so I can say, we have to do this before we do this. And you can see this is a Gantt chart view right here. The Gantt chart is the preferred method in a lot of cases for dealing with projects, because at a glance you can sort of see how things are progressing. You can see there's a little progress bar here, and I've got, arrows pointing to which tasks are following other tasks, and it's really good. So I'm not going to walk through everything in this book, but I would suggest you go through basically all of the material starting on page 49 through possibly 52. Export list items to Excel is definitely worthwhile. You can also look into the stuff about Outlook, but I don't know if that'll vary based on what you're attempting to do. But go a little further in the book on your own, get used to this stuff, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys for watching.